Welcome back to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. So it's been a year since the Mississauga mayoralty by-election. I was a candidate in that by-election, and I wanted to give some thought to a few issues, if I could. First of all, some people asked me why I ran, and I have a good job in the development industry. Why would I want to risk that and run for municipal politics? And it was because I really thought things were going wrong in Mississauga, and I wanted to have the soapbox of a by-election and the debates to raise a bunch of issues. I did not think I was going to win unless turnout increased dramatically, and turnout actually went down. There were only 24% of the people, so that Mississauga on average didn't care, which is obviously a challenge to me. I didn't do the job, and other people, frankly, didn't do the job either, because there were four existing municipal councillors that were running for politics, and so therefore there was a fair amount of attention, but not enough attention and not enough interest to actually increase turnout, which says that maybe without media, without a lot of debate, people don't care. And I think that part of it was because some of the debates restricted people from being on stage and discussing the issues, and I really regret that happened, because I think that because of it, there wasn't enough discussion, there wasn't enough controversy, there wasn't enough debate, there wasn't enough public engagement. In fact, some of those organizations that are supposed to be all about civic engagement were restricting the people that got up on stage. And I think it was a mistake, and turnout was down. And so therefore we got to take a look at our democracy, take a look at our city, and figure out, why is it that so few people care? That said, Carolyn Parrish won handily, and congratulations again to her. And obviously she deserved to win, because the people voted for her, and maybe because they thought she was going to win, and because that she had such a history in politics, they didn't care that there were several other people running, because they knew that she was going to win, and so therefore they didn't bother showing up. Anyway, a couple of the issues that I wanted to talk about, and I still want to talk about, is the Mississauga budget, the expenditures, and the tax increases, because I think all of them are out of whack. On expenditures, I think that above 8% for 5 years plus is wrong. It's too high. It's not sustainable. It shouldn't be something that politicians and or the populace are happy about and satisfied with. And again, I wonder whether it's the lack of media, or the lack of civic engagement, or the lack of honesty about it, or forthrightness at least. Because if you had that kind of increases in Toronto, you'd have politicians that would be in an uproar. You would have media that would be in uproar. You would be demanding kind of efficiency analyses, and consultants to come in, and budget reviews, and civic engagement that we just don't seem to have or care about Mississauga, that I think is wrong. Part of it is because I think that we cloud the actual increases because of the way that Mississauga reports the increases, and muddies it with Peel. And one of it is because what they do is they take the Mississauga tax increase and divide it not by the Mississauga taxes in the prior year, which would be about 8% or in excess of 8%. But they divide it by both the Mississauga taxes and the Peel taxes and say it's like 3%. And then they take the Peel taxes and divide it by the Mississauga taxes last year and the Peel taxes last year and say it's another 3 or 4%. And then they add the two together to get the total tax increase. Instead of saying Peel's gone up by 9% and Mississauga's gone up by 8%, and so therefore it's the average on an overall basis. I think that this is misleading and wrong, and it needs to be changed. And you've seen some change of it in this past year, but still the press releases come out in what I believe is a misleading manner. And I think if you don't be honest about what the tax increases are, I worry that you don't actually understand it, whether that be the government bureaucracy, the civic bureaucracy, or the actual politicians, and you don't address it. And it comes back to either you're trying to fool the people or you're fooling yourself. And I'm not sure which is worse. I think they're both bad, but I think it's wrong. And then the 23% increase in Peel Police is a huge issue, but I'm of two minds on this. Either if it's right, it means that whoever was managing the store in prior years made some huge mistakes by underfunding that led to this massive crime increase that led to a need for us to have a 23% budget increase. And if it's wrong, then we don't have the right controls. We don't have the right people in the Peel Police Services Board to manage the expenses. So either way, there needs to be a real review of and an explanation of and understanding of what the heck's going on. Crime has increased dramatically. Home invasions, carjackings, domestic violence, guns, etc. So I guess I am, without as much knowledge as I'd like, sort of the opinion that the increase was needed, which means that, number one, the people that voted against it, I disagree with. But then more importantly, the people that didn't vote for increases in the past years and underfunded that created the critical situation that we've got today that led to an increase in crime, that led to a situation where we needed this massive increase in the budget, are the people that made the mistake. And then we got to look at them and they got to take responsibility, and we got to understand why they didn't do the job they needed to do in past years so they don't make those mistakes again. And then the last thing I want to talk about is efficiency. We need more efficiency in government. We need less bureaucracy in government. And so, a couple of years ago, we thought that we were going to get more efficiency and less bureaucracy by getting rid of two-tier governments, by getting rid of Peel and having Mississauga and Brampton separate and become their own municipalities. And there was a lot of interest in that. And then the province turned it down, mainly because they found out that there wasn't efficiencies. There, in fact, would be substantial increases. And I think it's because the reality is we are one regional area. And really what we need to do is more integration, not more disintegration. And we've had this in so many different areas, interprovincial trade barriers, the number one big topic other than Trump tariffs right now, where we want more commonality and working together and less sort of parochialism within our country. Lots of people for partisan, populist reasons wanted Brexit. Most economists said it was a huge mistake, and separating out from the European Union for Great Britain, United Kingdom was a mistake. I think that we should be thinking about more working together, less parochialism. And I know it's nice to think you're the master in your own house, and politically it'd be very difficult to make any kind of integration. But there was a lot of opposition to the amalgamation in Toronto, but I don't think anyone would go backwards today. There was a ton of opposition to the integration and amalgamation of Mississauga. People wanted Mississauga, Streetsville, Port Credit, Clarkson, Cooksville, etc., to remain separate communities. Mayor Hazen McCallion, who was key in Streetsville at the time, objected vehemently to the integration of Mississauga into one city. But then it happened, and a year or two later, she ran for and became the mayor of Mississauga and did a great job, and Mississauga is one entity together. In 1996, Ann Golden had something called the GTA Task Force, and she took a look at the way that the Toronto region was running, and she thought that we had way too much duplication, way too much parochialism, 29 different municipalities and regions that got together once in a while on an ad hoc basis to figure out regional issues. And yet we had highways, sewers, water, hydro, transit, planning, economic development that all crossed city boundaries. And then we needed more integration. And she recommended that what we do is amalgamate Peel into one city, Halton into one city, York into one city, Durham into one city. And those four regions, now four cities, and the city of Toronto would get together in a GTA council and on a regular basis, not like the Metro Council of old that really was a second tier, but a more of a coordinating body to think about things from a regional standpoint. We've got Global Toronto that is really regional. We've got Metrolinx that is really regional. We've got the Pearson Airport that is really regional. We've got police that is becoming more, that is regional in Peel, but is also more regional between different municipalities. And we've got issues in regards to fire trucks that won't go across municipal borders that maybe should be even more regional. I think we got to rethink the way that we run government in the Greater Toronto Area. And I fully support this idea, which I think politically would be suicide for the people that recommend it, but I think it makes a ton of sense. I sat down with Hazel McCallion at one point in time. when she was the mayor of Mississauga. And I had this discussion with her, and she said, Brian, everyone in politics knows it's the right thing to do. Everyone in the civil bureaucracies know it's the right thing to do. But no one is willing to support it because it would be political suicide, because people in Mississauga don't want to be thinking that they're going to be joining Brampton, and people in Oakville don't want to be thinking they're going to join Burlington. Everyone wants to be masters of their own house and thinks that their city is the best. But that was the way it was at Streetsville versus Cooksville versus Clarkson, etc. That's the way it was between Etobicoke, Scarborough, and Toronto. But joining together makes sense, and it would lead to efficiency, and it would lead to lower expenses, and it would lead to less government, less elected politicians, less bureaucracy, less red tape, lower taxes. And I think it makes sense. And it's time to think very seriously about the way we govern ourselves in the Greater Toronto Area. Think about New York City. Used to have 5 different cities. It's now New York City. Chicago, LA are all, if not amalgamating, working far better together. A council for the whole island of Montreal, again, didn't amalgamate, but works far closer together on a very regular basis. I think we got to think about it. And I'm convinced that if we don't, the number of politicians we have, the red tape and bureaucracy that we have, the duplication that we have, and the expense structure that we have are going to be really real problem for us from an affordability standpoint and a competitiveness standpoint. And we've got to be thinking about efficiency. If you were running a business, you would have done this already. If we had less politics in this, you would have done this already. From an efficiency standpoint, I'm convinced it makes sense. We just need someone with the political capital and the guts to support it, champion it, and make it happen. We're going to have a great conversation this week with Sad Beg talking about politics municipally, regionally, provincially, and federally. We're going to have George Tavares talking about Mississauga, Mayoralty 1 year out. We're going to have Brad Butt talking about the budget. We're going to have Arthur Lamb talking about managed trade and industrial policy. And we're going to have a transit expert talking about transit. This is a week dedicated to talking about municipal and regional issues. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Thanks. I remind you, I'm on every Monday through Friday at 6 o'clock on 960 AM. You can stream me online at www.saga960am.ca. All my podcasts and videos go up on my website, briancrombie.com, and on social media, on YouTube, on podcast servers, as soon as the radio show goes to air. Please check me out. I think that we've got some great guests this week and a lot of interesting discussion. Good night.